Hurry, hurry! A small group of colonists are carrying injured men to shore. Doctor, doctor, one yelled. This settlement, not unlike the others, only had one doctor, and he was busy with other sick and injured patients. This was not unusual. Doctors have a history that dates very far back. For example, in the 1600s, doctors had very different methods to cure the hurt and sick. There were also different sicknesses and diseases back then. In fact, now cures are so much better than how they used to be back then because we know way more about the human body and things it needs in order to survive. For example, when a patient was sick back then, doctors thought it was because their blood was bad and would bleed them. But now, we know that it's not good to waste a lot of blood. So, when taking blood samples in this time period, only a tiny bit is used. This is a bandage in which doctors would wrap around the hurt or sick person's injuries so that they wouldn't bleed too much. Doctors had lots of different techniques and tools. For example, one technique was that when a patient was sick in the 1600s, doctors would feed them foods that looked like their injuries. An example is if a patient had a brain injury, they would be given the inside of a walnut because it sort of looked like a brain. Here's an example of a walnut that I gave to feed one of my patients. Another technique colonial doctors used a lot was hurting a patient in a different spot than they were already hurting. Colonial doctors did that because they believed that the person was feeling the pain and the pain should be balanced so that they wouldn't just be focused on one spot. This is a grinder in which doctors would make medicine from. Here. And then put it back down. To cure the hurt and sick, doctors would grind things like tree barks, roots, leaves, and other nature-filled things that were made into medicines that tasted terrible. That only sometimes worked when trying to cure patients. Oh, I hear my patient calling. I must go to him right away. Doctor, my stomach hurts. Oh dear. Here, drink this. Ugh, what is this? Oh, it's the ash of toads that I boiled this morning. Ew. They also use leeches to suck people's blood. In fact, some patients' deaths were caused by how much blood was taken away because of the idea of blood being bad. Like George Washington, who lost more than 50% of his blood by doctors using leeches, all because he felt unwell after riding his horse in the rain. Oh, I hear my patient again. I must check on him once more.
Doctor, he's been feverish the whole night long.
Don't worry, these leeches will take all the bad blood out.
Oh.
Most people living in the colonial times didn't see the importance or benefits in doctors because of the painful and scarcely helpful remedies that doctors provided. The greatest benefit for someone who saw a doctor was to stay alive. The greatest benefit that doctors got is money in return for trying to heal the hurt and sick. The role that doctors play in the colonial times is to try to cure people who have money and cannot get cured by themselves. Doctors in the colonial times usually hurt instead of help their patients. For example, sometimes doctors would put the hurt or sick person in a either freezing cold ice bath or a very hot bath. Nowadays, doctors are very different from how they used to be in the 1600s. Doctors in the 1600s used to give their patients concoctions that tasted disgusting. But now in the 21st century, remedies don't taste that bad. In fact, some medicines even taste good. Also, when you get hurt in one place, like your leg, for example, doctors would stop the bleeding and then put medicine on it, and before giving surgery, doctors would numb it. But in the 1600s, doctors would either hurt you in another place or give you surgery before numbing it and would give you something to bite down on while you have the surgery. Everyone's lucky to have good doctors now who don't just care about the money, but care for the patients more. Not only that, but nowadays, they're not only men as doctors, but women can be doctors too. As you can see, doctors changed a lot over time and got better and better. Now, more lives are saved, more people are alive after being seriously injured or hurt, and more people come out happy and ready to continue with life and make better decisions. Doctors are so important for everyone, and more people should see that. Doctors in the time of the colonies only sort of cared, but now so many doctors really care. Hopefully, you enjoyed learning about doctors in the colonial time period and how different their perspective was about techniques, cures, and what tools to use. History is an important thing to learn and about how things changed over time. And wow, a lot has changed.